my friend who introduced me to this is Brenda Teagarden, and I met her in 2006 in India, and we stayed in touch. And she called me and she said, oh, this is something I'm so excited about, and told me about it. And when I went and I watched the testimonials, there were just so many. I went, oh my God, I'm just going to give it a try. So my history is that in 2008, I was healthy until 2008. And I got bit by a tick, and I got Lyme, and a Lyme co-infection called Bartonella, which was even worse than the Lyme. And then I was on antibiotics for 2 years, and that brought on something called PMR, polymyalgia rheumatica. And for that, which basically means everything hurts all over. And so for that, I was on prednisone for 5 years. And the prednisone, we believe, because you don't know for sure, but we believe that the prednisone brought forward the rheumatoid arthritis, which I then got. And I've had scoliosis since I was 13, but it was never a big deal. But especially in the last 4 or 5 years, the rheumatoid arthritis made the scoliosis much worse. And so I have tried everything I could possibly try. And I made a little list to tell you all the things that I tried. I'm an energy healer myself. And so I have a lot of friends who are energy healers. Now, everything that I tried helped, but nothing did it. Nothing did anything even remotely like what I've experienced now in these 2 weeks with the patch. So I tried energy healing. I tried my wonderful chiropractors, physical therapists, acupuncture, osteopath, the medical medium, he helped a lot, foot zoning, Rife machine, zapper, cold lasers, pulse electromagnetic field technology, biomat, personal growth work. I did a lot of that. I take 70 supplements a day, $200 to $300 worth of CBD a month, Chinese herbs, earthing sheets, and the Zaz whole body vibration plate. And I've been spending $13,000 to $24,000 a year on all these supplements and healings. So that's my background. I mean, I don't want to pan them. They were all helpful, but they were helpful like a 2. And what I'm getting now is like a 10, you know? So that's why I'm so excited about this. So in the last 4 years, everything got a lot worse. And so over all these years, I lost 90% of the hearing in my left ear, and I had to have an operation to bring it back. And it was starting to go again. I was thinking I was getting ready to see about getting that operation again. I lost 5 inches in height due to the scoliosis getting so bad. My hands are pretty gnarled, right? See, they look not so good. And they're not really at the ends of my arms anymore. My feet are gnarled. Also, my toes are very bizarre. And my right foot is kind of not so much at the end of my right leg anymore. And my jaw got deformed from the RA. And so I only have 2 teeth on each side that meet. And the right side has been hurting a lot until the patch has been hurting. And the left side, I need they say I need one of those teeth that meets that I can chew on. They want to extract it, and it's gone down into the jawbone, so they want to do surgery. And I can't get up and down from a normal chair by myself. I can't reach my neck. I can sort of almost reach it. See, the arm doesn't really bend. And I have trouble washing my hair. I got urinary incontinence from it that wakes me up every 2 hours at night, sometimes every hour when it gets close to the morning. My knees have been an issue for all these years. They were the very first thing that went out was my knees. So they've been an issue for 12 years. At one point, they were so painful that when I would try to get up from a chair, I would have to prep myself for like an hour to convince myself to get up. And then I would get up and I would almost black out. It's like everything would disappear. And it was like everything was was black, and I just have to stand there and wait until I could breathe again before I could try to move. It hasn't been like that in a little while, luckily. And so, but I still was needing a little bit of a pep talk to get myself out of a chair. And then I'd have to carefully balance every step that I would take once I was actually walking, and then I would hobble into the next room. And it got so bad over the last few months, especially because we're in California, we have these wildfires and you couldn't go outside because of the smoke. And then it was 104, you couldn't go outside because of the heat. And then the smoke came back, you couldn't go outside because of the smoke. And then the ash came from Oregon from the fires, and you couldn't go out because of the ash. So I got much, much worse even during that period of not being able to go out and walk back and forth with my walker on my deck. That, you know, was really difficult. And, you know, people around me probably didn't know, but every step was really basically terrifying. Because I didn't know if my legs were just gonna collapse under me. So yeah, that was bad. And using the walker really hurt because it hurt my wrists, because my wrists, you know, look like this weird thing. So, okay, so there's that. I couldn't cook for myself anymore because the rheumatoid, not only the hands, but the rheumatoid arthritis makes you very exhausted. And so if I tried to make a salad, I would put the lettuce in the bowl, and then I'd have to sit down, and then I'd put the carrot in, and then I'd have to sit down. Then I'd put the tomato in, and I'd sit down. Take me a really long time to make a salad, and then I'd have to rest before I could eat it. So yeah, it was hard to cook. If I washed my hair, that was like the worst. To wash my hair takes, you know, I have to rest for like 45 minutes after I wash my hair. Oh, and then from the smoke, I was getting pleurisy, the doctor said, from breathing the smoke, which, you know, it would just feel really bizarre in my chest. Oh, and then in February, I got hives. From February till May, I got hives all over my arms, which are now covered in scars because they itched so bad that in the middle of the night, I'd be scratching it and my sheets would get all covered with blood and stuff. Yeah, it was lots of fun and games around here, I tell you.
Well, Carrie, I know there's so many different ways this patch has come in to help you. And I think you've painted the picture of what you were living with, which is beyond imagination. So let's look at what happened when you got on the patch.
Right, so the very first day, you know, the first half of the day, I'm going, oh, well, I guess nothing's happening. I'm going to be in the 50% of the people who don't experience anything, you know, until 1 or 3 months. But then in the afternoon, I started to feel something really weird inside that I've never felt. And the only way I can describe it is to say I felt thinner on the inside. And I kept saying, what is that? What is that? And then it began to feel kind of fluid. And then I'm talking to myself, I'm going, well, it's not the I can tell it's not the circulatory system. And then it turned out to be the lymphatic system. So because I'm not walking, my lymphatic system wasn't working, hasn't been working, and the sludge was starting to get unclogged. And so that was just amazing. And that happened, started the very first day. By the second, third day, I could tell what was happening. So that was amazing. And at least the first 4 days, I had so much trouble waking up in the morning because my body, you know, think about how a baby sleeps because their stem cells are working away, right? So I was sleeping like a baby and I just couldn't even get up in the morning for the first 4 days, and that eventually lightened up. And so I was using the patch, and then I took a day-old one. You're not really supposed to do this, but I took a day-old and I put it right here on my jaw. No, the first one I put over here. First thing that was the one I put over here, because this is where the bad tooth is. And it felt oiled up, like somebody had oiled up. And even though I had this tooth problem, it didn't hurt me. And so I was really surprised to find all of a sudden it was feeling smooth, because I hadn't even noticed that it was feeling stiff. So that was one of also the very first things. By day 5, I kept a very detailed log. Every day I would make sure I made an entry. By day 5, I was being able to walk better. I was more stable. It was so exciting. And my legs stopped threatening to collapse while I was walking. And then the big thing was my right leg started to feel like a leg again. And before it sort of felt a little bit like a tree trunk. Sometimes it felt like it was stuffed with cotton. It would feel like all different things, but not like a leg. So that was a big gain. And then, so then once I knew, okay, it's definitely doing something, on day 6, because I have to try to save this tooth, the periodontist gave me a month to do this experiment. We'll see what happens, because I'm only 2 weeks into it. So, so on day 6, I went, okay, I know it's doing something. I'm going to double up. And so I started doubling up the X39 patch, and I added the Eon patch because it's been documented clinically to reduce inflammation. So I put that on my foot, and then I put the day old ones on my knee. So on day 7, again, I got the day olds on my knee. My knee on my right leg stopped locking up. So normally I'm trying to normal, my version of normal. Normally I'd start trying to walk and the knee would lock, and I'd have to drag the leg, or I'd have to stop and coach the knee on how to unlock. And then I would try to slowly go forward again without it locking, which was really difficult. So on that day, what was that, day 7, it stopped locking. That's like a miracle. And oh, and that night my sinuses cleared. It was really amazing. All of a sudden I get this sort of whoosh and my sinuses cleared, because sometimes I have trouble breathing when I lie on my left side.
And what day was that you called me crying when you were able?
That was day 9. We didn't even get to day 9 yet.
Okay.
On day 9, I can't, because I can't reach my neck, I couldn't put the X39 on my spine. So I was putting it in the other spot that they recommend, which is on your belly, 2 inches below the belly button. I could do that. But because I have scoliosis, I think that's why it made such a big difference to me. I waited for somebody to be able to do that for me, to put it on my spine, and I put the Eon on my right foot. And that day was amazing. So I was sitting at my computer for a long time. So normally if I'm sitting for a long time and I stand, it's going to be really hard to stand up and do anything. And I went to walk into the kitchen to get some food. And I got into the kitchen, and then all of a sudden I went, wait a minute, how did I get here? Because I just got up, and I'm not saying I walked normally, don't get me wrong, but for me, it was like I walked, I don't know, 10 times, at least 10, maybe 20 times better than I was able to walk. And I didn't have to convince myself and drag myself out of the chair. I just found myself in the kitchen. I was just there. And I got so, just so blown away that I started calling everybody, crying. I cried for half an hour on the phone, calling everybody to share what had happened. So then I got lunch, and I went and I sat down to eat the lunch. And then after the lunch, I get up to go back into the computer to finish. So I go back into my office, and my right foot, it's hard to explain, but instead of walking flat-footed, my right foot started rolling from my heel to my toe like you're supposed to walk, like you normally walk. And the physical therapist had always tried to get me to do that, but I couldn't do it. The pain was so bad, and I would feel like the bones were going to pulverize inside my foot. And this just on its own just started doing it. It was just amazing. So that makes a huge difference. So that was day 9. That was an amazing day. Oh, the other thing that happened that day was I had some copies that I have to make to send to somebody. And I've been putting it off for literally an entire month. And I thought, I'm going to have to hire somebody. There's no way I could stand at my copy machine and do this. So all of a sudden, oh, I'll just go make those copies. I don't know how I turned into sort of a semi-normal person for a little bit. And I went to the copy machine and I made these copies, and I only had to sit down twice. I was standing for maybe an hour and a half making these copies. And that was just, I mean, this is the person who sat down after cutting a tomato, right? And I sat for an hour and a half, I was able to do that. So that was amazing. That was all day 9, amazing.
And then can you talk about the reflux?
The reflux. Well, I didn't realize about the reflux until just a couple of days ago. I suddenly realized that in the last 2 weeks since I've been doing this, I hadn't had any reflux. So usually I have these reflux herbal pills that I would take whenever I would get it, even from drinking water. Sometimes I'd have to take them. And I hadn't taken them at all. And I couldn't even remember the last time that I took them. So that this really affected that somehow. So that was really great. And the prednisone took away my muscle tone. So I feel like I'm getting muscle tone back. It's just like really exciting.
So I think we could, I know there's more, but we're going to bring this to a close. If you'd like to say one last thing, because we're going to bring you back for a follow-up. But there's so
really important. I have photos. I'm not going to show you because it's not a big enough difference yet. But we documented my spine 1 week when I first started doing the patch. And my body worker worked on my spine and took a picture. And then a week later, she gave me another bodywork session, and there was literally a change in my scoliosis. It wasn't a huge change, but a change in just that 1 week, in 8 days, there was a change. And I have photos to prove it. And I'm going to wait till it gets even better before I share those photos.